I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Morganton City Council for March 3rd, 2025 to order. I'd like to ask Councilman Butch McSwain if he'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time I'd like to call on Pastor Mark Ball with Walker Road Baptist Church to lead us in an invocation. Mark, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Join me in prayer. Dear Lord Jesus, I pray this evening for the city of Morganton, that you would protect our citizens from harm and bring peace to every heart. Please bless and guide our mayor and each council member. Bring prosperity to every business, safety and learning to every school, truth and strength to every church. I pray that the gospel of Jesus Christ would penetrate into every home and every part of this city. Please see fit to give us health and protection, and we will give you all the praise and all the glory and all the honor that is due your name. And it's in the strong and powerful name of Jesus that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mark. I'd like to recognize City Council. On my far right, Wendy Cato, Mayor Pro Tem, Chris Jernigan, City Council, Keith Rigsby, our City Attorney. I'm Ronnie Thompson, your Mayor, Sally Sandy, City Manager, Butch McSwain, City Council, Chris Hawkins, City Council, Renee Carswell, our City Clerk, and interpreting for the deaf, Danette Stillman Bridges and Ernest Williams IV. We have a couple of retirement resolutions and people who are being honored tonight. The first resolution is honoring Linda K. Anthony. I'd like to read that, please. Whereas Linda K. Anthony was employed by the City of Morganton as HR Analyst in the Human Resources Department on September 19, 2005, promoted to HR Specialist on January 1, 2006, promoted to HR Benefits Administrator on July 1, 2008, and whereas Linda K. Anthony has faithfully served and given of her time and effort for the citizens of the City of Morganton for 21 years, and whereas Linda K. Anthony retired from the City of Morganton as the Benefits Administrator in the Human Resources Department on March 1st, 2025, and whereas the Morganton City Council wishes to officially recognize the contributions of Linda K. Anthony and express their appreciation for a job well done, now therefore be it resolved by the City of Morganton that the Mayor present this resolution to Linda K. Anthony, adopted this third day of March, 2025. Ronnie Thompson, Mayor, Sally Sandy, City Manager. I'd like to ask Wendy Cato if she'd make that presentation and also a service pin.
And Wendy, because we had to do shenanigans, because Kathy would have known, there's a couple of paragraphs in the resolution you have. I think it would be awfully nice to read. Grab those glasses. Go ahead and help her out, Chris. Like the first, second, and third one.
The first and second paragraph?
First, second, and third.
Whereas Linda, who we know as
Kathy.
was employed by the City of Morganton as HR Analyst in the Human Resources Department on September 19, 2005, promoted to HR Specialist on January 1st, 2006, and then promoted to HR Benefits Administrator on July 1st, 2008. You moved up fast, Kathy. Whereas Linda K. Anthony has faithfully served and given of her time and effort for the citizens and employees of the City of Morganton for 21 years, displaying strong technical expertise, tremendous work ethic, and reliable accuracy. And whereas Linda K. Anthony has earned a well-deserved reputation for her caring heart, her empathetic nature, and sincere concern for all employees, consistently going above and beyond to guide employees through the complex world of benefits.
There you go.
Let's see, you have,
Yeah, let's stand up.
You have seen us birth babies. You've seen us lose loved ones. You've seen us through very difficult challenges with health insurance. You've trained up so many of us that are employed here, and you will be greatly, greatly missed. Great. But she's the best volunteer in the world, isn't she, Sharon? So we will see her a lot, okay? Would you like to say anything?
And you got her pen. Did you give Wendy her pen?
She had the pen.
It has been my honor and my pleasure to serve the city and to become such wonderful friends with so many. I'm just going to miss you because you're my family. I have worked at another location and fell in love with those people, and I've joked before. I said I swore I would never fall in love with people like that again because it hurts if you're not in their family again. But it didn't take me long to fall in love with all of you, and I hope that you know and have felt a portion of what I feel for you guys. I wish that I could turn back the page and start all over because I thoroughly enjoyed my job here. I have made wonderful friends that I will continue, and a lot of people that we've had retired over the years. I don't know how many that I've processed, but they're just as very dear too. They're just not active with us today. So for all of you, I just wish the best for the city, and I hope I can come back and see you guys periodically and volunteer and whatever. But if I can ever help you with anything, please let me know. And I just wish you the very best.
Kathy,
As
it's
well
not,
as all of you guys, very, very much.
Kathy, it's really not official yet. I need a motion, please, to adopt the resolution. We put it off, but we got to do something,
My
so.
pleasure to make the motion.
And I would love to second it.
Okay, I've got a motion, a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, you retired.
You know, Mr. Mayor, I looked up kind, compassionate, caring employee in the dictionary, and her
Right.
picture was right there by it.
She's bailed us all out a few times. Thank you, Kathy, so much. We have another resolution honor a retiree. I'd like to read that resolution honoring Mario J. Sclerandis. Whereas Mario J. Sclerandis was employed by the City of Morganton as city engineer in the Development and Design Department on March 25th, 2019. And whereas Mario J. Sclerandis has faithfully served and given of his time and effort for the citizens of Morganton for 6 years and 1 month. And whereas Mario J. Sclerandis retired from the City of Morganton as city engineer in the Development and Design Department on March 1st, 2025. And whereas the Morganton City Council wishes to officially recognize the contributions of Mario Sclerandis and express their appreciation for a job well done, now therefore be it resolved by the City of Morganton that the mayor present this resolution to Mario Sclerandis, adopted this third day of March 2025. Ronnie Thompson, Mayor, Sally Sandy, City Manager. Mario's not able to be with us tonight, and we will make that presentation later. I need a motion to adopt this resolution.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. Next on our agenda is public advocacies. I think we have a video for Burke County debris update. Let Chad cue that video.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Epley. I'm the manager here in Burke County. Come today to provide an update on debris collection efforts following the tragedy of Hurricane Helene here in Burke County. It's hard to imagine that we, here in early February, are 140 days post storm activity. And as all of you know, directly following the storm, after life-saving efforts were complete, and attention to public infrastructure was given, this disaster recovery effort began. And we've really been hyper-focused at the county level on debris collection. Right-of-way debris collection has been the majority of our effort to this point. As of today, we've collected about 220,000 cubic yards of material. We've maintained that in 3 primary debris sites around the county. I'm sure many of you have seen that. First, we just want to thank each of you for working so hard and diligently to stay connected, stay informed, to move that debris to the right-of-way so that the county's contractor could collect that and we could move forward. We think we're about 85 to 90% complete, and we're beginning across the county many of our second and third passings. There's a map that you can see here on your screen and is also available on the county's website that breaks the county down into zones, along with the corresponding dates that our contractors will be working in those zones. There's a QR code that I would encourage you to scan, as well as a debris hotline phone number that you can call to make sure that the county knows your address and knows what kind of debris you may have. We want to ensure that our contractor can work hard to collect that as expeditiously as possible. The end of our contract is quickly approaching. March the 10th will be the final day for the county to collect addresses and points of emphasis for debris collection, and the contract has to be completely done by the 18th of March. Following that, they'll still be in town dealing with what they've collected, but as far as picking it up from the right-of-way, we're getting closer. So I want to again encourage you to work hard to get any remaining debris you have out to the right-of-way, and then to follow that up by calling our debris hotline or following the QR code to input your address and let us know the location of your debris so that we can work hard to get that picked up. We're so incredibly grateful for your help in our recovery efforts, for staying connected. Please share this information with your neighbors, and let's work hard to finish our disaster recovery efforts.
Next on our agenda is going to be the Hurricane Helene storm update. I'll call on City Manager Sally Sandy for the local update.
Okay, thank you. And on debris, I will remind everyone that those dates are fast approaching, so if you need more pickup, you need to get registered with the county. Okay, so we've been doing periodic updates, and appreciate Tom's comments earlier about travel and tourism. Part of my comments tonight will address some local travel and tourism, and in some ways, I guess, the lack thereof, at least for a period of time as we have known it. A lot has occurred over the last 6 months, and a lot of work has gone on, and there is a lot of work left to do. Our staff has been working pretty much around the clock to try to restore a lot of our facilities, a lot of our parks, our infrastructure, our water plant, wastewater plant, the electric system, and the compass system right after the storm. There's still a lot left to do with that. We have been working with FEMA, and we are assigned a group of people with FEMA who work with us. We have a manager who works with us every week. And then we have some site inspectors and a larger group of folks so that we can get on a path to get some reimbursement from FEMA. I can tell you that today we hit the send button on the first request for reimbursement of funding that we have been authorized to do with FEMA, and that is to recover the mutual aid dollars that we have paid out to the multitude of electric communities that came to help us restore our power. Now, we finished that 10 days after the storm, and you heard me say that today we were just allowed to hit the button to get those dollars back. The total of those dollars that we are requesting is $977,000. That is what we paid to other communities to help restore our electric system. There are many other projects, other things that are happening, and we're going to take action on a couple of things later tonight relative to what I'm about to say. So Chad, you want to bring up the pictures. So, well, I know y'all love to hear my voice. I think that pictures really say what I'm trying to say and help me to explain to you. So I thought we'd just put a little walk down memory lane. And so we're getting to see some of the scenes from Catawba Meadows, and you can go to the next one, Chad, looking at some of the damage that has occurred in our park system, and you're going to see some utility damage as well. The Greenway, we were along the Greenway with a FEMA group today doing site inspection. parts of the Greenway today still look like a beach. And we could literally, it is a completely different place than what we are used to. You're seeing River Village, some of the commercial areas, Mimosa Center. That is the boardwalk. We toured that today with FEMA as well. A couple of sites of that at River Village. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. You see the flooding. So if you look at that, that is our effluent area at the wastewater plant in that top left corner. And there's some other sites, and you see the water line marked inside that building. And that's just to set the stage and give you some ideas. The soccer complex, what it used to look like, and then you get to see what it looked like at the height of the flooding. And what you're looking at there is Ingalls and the soccer complex behind it. So the next one is where a lot of my, and I won't bore you with all the numbers, but I do think that the numbers are important. And I think that our community needs to understand what we're saying and what we're finding and what it has taken us really months to determine. And I'm going to start out by telling you that on our FEMA damage inventory worksheet, our total estimate to put everything back the way that it was September the 26th is $46 million. And about $5 million of that has already been spent in debris removal and emergency response. So a long time ago, and still some continuing. That doesn't, and you see there the breakdown, and I won't go through all the numbers. Electric 3 million, wastewater 4.5 million, water resources about 11 million, parks and recreation 22.5 million. Now I want to talk about that 46 million because thanks to the paper and to the News Herald, talked with them the end of last week because I wanted a teaser out because people need to understand this. $46 million, that is a moving target. A lot of these projects are not, we haven't fully engaged engineering services because we're just in the process, because we have to go through the FEMA process to get to that point. We have to work with our insurance company to get to that point, and we had both traditional property and liability insurance and flood insurance on some of our properties. And none of those are resolved as of this day. You can stay there for a minute, Chad. Maybe 2 or 3, honestly. So some of these estimates are based on information we've been able to gather, conversations that we've had with our connections with professional engineers to try to understand how we are trying to define a scope of work to do this work, to complete these projects. Some of them will go through a full engineering and design process. Some of them will go through a full bidding process, all following federal and state procurement guidelines. That can take as many as 4 to 6 months before you can get to even have a bid on a project to meet all of those guidelines. When we get to bid on some of these things, what we have estimated, and I'll give you an example. So we have estimated between 11 and $12 million to put the soccer complex and Catawba Meadows back to the condition that they were beforehand. And that does not include the Greenway. Those are just the parks and the amenities within the parks. When we go to bid, that might be 12.2 million. That might be 10.2 million. So I'd say 46 million is an accurate number, give or take 4 or 5 million either way. I know that seems crazy, and I'm just going to tell you, for this accountant, those are hard words to say. So many moving parts and so many unknowns. But we are working through the process, and what we're trying to do now, and Brian's going to talk to you in a few minutes specifically about Parks and Rec. But I want to talk to you about how we're doing this And I want our community to understand that we've had to set some priorities, because $46 million is half of my annual budget, including capital, and that's for everything in the city. Actually, it's a little more than half. And what we're trying to do is $42 million worth of capital projects and figure out how to do them in a matter of 2 to 2.5 years. And it took us 50 or 60 years to build what we're trying to replace. And that's simply the story. And in order to do that, we have to have the cash. When we let a contract, we have to set aside those monies. And so we have to know that we can write the check for everybody at home. That's what we have to know. So figuring out how to cash flow this, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later too, because we have an opportunity for a cash flow loan from the state of North Carolina. Big dollars, lots of time, lots of complication to all of these projects. So what we've tried to do is create a priority list, if you will, that may also be a moving target and may move as we find out things as we go along, as we identify any other sources of money that may be available, that kind of thing. So right out of the gate, and what we're working on, Shuey Park, and Brian's going to talk a little more in detail, but in recreation, we prioritized after cleaning facilities and doing cleaning and mold remediation and that sort of thing, and basically cleaning up debris. We prioritized Shuey Park, and that is almost complete. And that is so that we can start and have a baseball and softball season for our kids. That price tag is about $500,000, and we're fronting that money now. Beanstalk Playground at Catawba Meadows, and we are getting the final quotes to be able to put that back together, so that ultimately our goal is to be able to open up large part of the greenway and the part of the parks that we can open before some of this work happens. The boardwalk at the greenway, and we're going to talk about that tonight. We have a quote for its demolition, and that is step one. Then we need to hire an engineer, we need to have it re-engineered, and then we need to go out to bid, and then we need to construct it. But that is high on our priority list, because ultimately, as you all well know, we can't open the entire greenway until we make that connection. And as we speak, River Village is now starting to open up some of that space, some of the commercial space. Some of the tenants are coming back. And the restaurant is also working to come back in the spring. The other priority there will also be our maintenance building. That's our maintenance shed at the bottom there. And, well, that's what's left of part of it. Another part of it's just not there at all. So it's basically not usable, obviously. And as we start to have to purchase equipment and replace our equipment, we're doing some of that tonight too. We've got to have a place to put it. We've got to have a place to work that up. So a new maintenance building in a different location at Catawba Meadows is one of our priorities, and something more and so what I just told you, what I believe is going to cost us somewhere around $5 million. The wastewater treatment plant work is going on there this week and there last week, but we allowed us to contract for the last month of the most track, and some other work happened. That work is almost going to be just over $1 million into that project. And yes, we're fronting that money also. At the water plant, the divers are coming in to take a look at our raw water intake and do some further assessment. That will be an engineering project and then a full-fledged construction project. That also includes the weir and the low weir dam that's located at the water plant as well. Those things together are the raw water intake and the weir. We're guesstimating that's another $11 million. $11 million seems to be a popular number with us. We're working through some insurance on some of that too. So those projects are just a little bit down the road because we're having to do more work on those. We've spent close to $500,000 in response to our pump stations and lift stations in our water and sewer systems. There's more work to be done there, and I'm not talking about Silver Creek. That's an animal all by itself. Week before last, we just found and discovered a new large washout that happened at one of our sewer lines, and it was storm-related, and the repair for that is $80,000. And we did not know that that existed until 2 weeks ago. So that number is climbing. The Silver Creek Lift Station, which we were already working on, we feel like about $1 million, $1.2 million will probably get that completed and allow us to do some things to make it more water resilient in the future. Last but not least, we're saving Catawba Meadows, Soccer, the Rocky Ford end of the Greenway, which, as you see in that third picture right there, and then the Low Weir Dam. And those will be kind of the last projects. And by last, I don't mean 10 years from now. I just mean we're going to get started on those a few months from now. It takes a lot to put them together. You can go on to the other pictures now, Chad. So just some pictures of what everybody has been doing, and all of my coworkers and folks that have done incredible work since September the 27th. And just thought we might need to be reminded about that. I've talked to you a lot tonight about our need to spend almost $50 million putting our things back together and getting our facilities functioning in a way that our community is used to, in a way that our region is used to, in a way that lots of out-of-town folks, all of those travel and tourism folks that come here to enjoy what we have, enjoy the national parks, enjoy the state parks and all of that. What I haven't talked to you a lot about is lost revenues. And that is another category that we are wrestling with. And that is everything from permit fees, general economics, cancellations that happened the first few weeks after the storm, tax valuation. We do not know yet. We are waiting on the county to give us what they estimate that our tax valuation is going to go down based on what's happened to our property inside the city limits, to everybody's personal property. Businesses that have not reopened yet, that are normally a part of our economy, and industry here that isn't working at 100%. We still have 2 very large industrial customers that are working at less than 100% because they're still recovering from damage from the storm. We have some that aren't reopening at all. We have some commercial space not reopening at all. And we have other commercial space that working very hard to have a place to go to get back open. Western North Carolina, because this is bigger than us. So I'm very concerned about what happens in Western North Carolina, because in the state of North Carolina, sales tax that is generated in the state all gets shared. There's a portion of it that gets shared with all of us. So everyone's downed economy because of this in Western North Carolina affects everybody in North Carolina. Those visitors that we're used to having come here to use all the great facilities, to use all that God blessed us with in Western North Carolina, it's not happening. And there's a lot of struggle with how that's going to get back. And that also affects our economy. We are probably running, and it varies, but we are probably running somewhere between electric, water, sewer, and one other cost? Cable, not as much, honestly. I mean, the phone, internet, and all that. Water, sewer, and electric, it's running probably somewhere, and it depends weather, different things, between $300 and $500,000 a month in revenue that we normally get that we're not getting. Because our customer base has changed and they're trying to rebuild also. So the numbers are big. Yes, they do keep me up at night. Managing it all and figuring out how to pay for it all in a short period of time and how to get it back because we want it back. And just like we heard, the Greenway is important to a lot of people. You know, if your kid was going to get to play t-ball this year and we've had to limit the numbers because of our facility challenges, that's hard for you. If you're, you know, someone that wants to use another facility that we have and you can't right now, it's hard. And it's very heartbreaking to deny our community what we are very used to providing in a very over-the-top, fantastic manner. But we're working on it. I think we need to ask everyone to still continue to have some patience. You're getting ready to hear from Brian about what we think is some good news with Parks and Recreation. And I would ask him to come up and talk about some of the facilities that we're gonna, and Janelle puts up, so you've heard me say this before, and I'm gonna try not to cry because I cried when I went to the soccer complex today with FEMA. It is still very hard to even look at. My first trip to the Greenway, when you couldn't see the Greenway after the storm, one of our employees was taking me out there, and I was just, I don't know what to say. I don't know how we'll get this done. And he just turned and said, "Don't worry, Miss Sandy, we'll build it back even better." And I think that's what we're aiming for. It's just going to take us a little while. And a lot of money.
And a lot of money.
Brian, will you share some good news with us, please?
I will. Good evening, council, city manager. I do have a little bit of good news. If Chad is ready with the slides. Chad.
Here we go.
There we go.
All right, so that's not the good news. That's just to get us started. That's currently Catawba Meadows fields, or what's left of them. But we'll get into that in a minute. If you can go to the next slide, Chad. So, after a lot of conversations and a lot of work, we've decided that we're going to open a section of the Greenway. I know everybody's about tired of the loop at Freedom Park and that you're not able to have bikes and some of those things. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the section of Greenway from Freedom Park. You can see here in the green. That'll run back parallel to Freedom Park. You can go to the next slide, Chad. And we'll run over the Freedom Bridge into the soccer complex. Again, everything on the map that's green means it's accessible. The areas in red are still are not available for use. So you can come across the bridge, you can take a right down to the Greenleaf Ford parking area. You can go straight across into the dog parks, and then take a left if you come across the bridge down to the loop behind fields 5 and 6 at the soccer complex. So those areas, beginning now, or in the morning, will be open for use. Again, we want to reiterate that the areas in red, the fields, the restrooms, the playgrounds, the bridge across Silver Creek towards Town Tavern, all those areas are closed. And they may look, the fields, some of them, it may look like they could be used, but they're not to the point where we could put anybody on them. There's obviously still a lot of work to be done. That goes for the restrooms, the buildings, anything out there that's in red, we have some stuff to do. If you're wanting to use those areas, you'll need to park at the Greenleaf Ford access area or at Freedom Park, and walk or run across. The biggest thing to remember with this is that, for me, if you've got kids, the bathrooms on the soccer side are closed. So if you come across, there will be no restrooms. You either have to use the bathroom at Freedom Park or just wait until you leave. So that's the good news. We're still working on other areas. So,
And may I add two things to that?
yes,
So we've talked the last several times about silt removal and all of that. So we ended up removing 1,226 tons of silt from the greenway and then a path at wastewater treatment plant. So to put that in a perspective, it's about 81 dump truck loads. So, and when you take this loop, you will see still an awful lot of silt
yes.
and mounds of it still there.
You will see it without excavating and tearing up grass and other things. It's just gonna be there. It's gonna take time with rain, grow in. It's gonna look different. There's a lot of trees that have come down. You can about see from the parking lot all the way over to the river now, which were not able to do that before. So it's gonna look different. There's still gonna be limbs and some things down, but we've tried to move those into areas to make the greenway safe, so people can enjoy at least this section of the greenway. Now to Catawba Meadows. As you can see, it looks nothing like it did pre-Hurricane Helene. Staff have been very busy with getting the fencing, the dugouts, a lot of things within the park cleaned up and cleaned out to be removed. As you can see, the picture on the right, the two buildings, they're still standing, but water got up 10 feet, if not more, in those buildings. So all the concession equipment, all the baseball equipment, anything we had in those buildings was ruined. And we're doing all this work, the building on the left, we had a lot of our mowers, golf carts, gators, all of that was in there flooded, submerged. So we've been very limited to the few things we actually moved up to the top where you come in Beanstalk. And the building that they showed previously, the maintenance shed that collapsed, a lot of our other stuff was in there. So we've had to work with other departments to have the equipment to do some of this clean out. We've had to purchase some stuff that was lost during the storm. Chad, you can go to the next picture. He just missed this picture on the right. If we had been standing back just a little bit, that foul pole on the right, it would have shown, you still see the marks way up on the foul pole to where the water, how high it was. You can see the Gerard building back in the left. It had substantial damage, and just a lot of damage people have not been able to see in person. We've kept the park closed, and it's very, very rough. Field to the left is softball field number 4. I think field 1 took the majority of the brunt of the storm. Pretty much everything on it was washed to the other fields. Field 4, all the fencing was laid down. And you can see on the right the baseball fields. And this is a close-up of the fields. Just we lost all the field dirt. The grass has sediment, silt all over it. You can't mow it, and the process is going to be coming. We have to take several inches off the top and then sod back new grass. Same with the infields and mounds. Again, just some other pictures. Walking into the softball side, see this bottom left picture, the arch you walk under going onto the softball side, that structure is leaning. There's a 6 foot or so sinkhole, 6 foot deep and probably 15 foot wide. So you can't even walk through there anymore. So it's looks bad. It is bad. It's not safe for those that are still journeying out into the parks. But we're working on it. Okay, this picture, the Catawba River Greenway, we discussed this. Sally discussed this. This is where we were at today. That bench that is sitting there is no longer there. It's slowly started to fall almost into the river. We saved it today and pulled it back. But that area, we still see bike wheel tracks, footprints, human, dog, animal. That area is people are still going, and it is not safe whatsoever. There's several feet underneath with the paved walking trail that has been washed out. New sections of Greenway have started to fall into the river. There's a retaining wall, there's fencing that is falling into the river, and that's just part of the reason that the areas that we open, we ask that you stay in, because there's areas like that you could walk out there not knowing, and you end up dropping 20 feet into the river with all kinds of other debris. Working to get some areas open. Drexel Heritage Park is one of the few parks that didn't sustain substantial damage to the structures. The playground equipment is okay. The restrooms are okay. The problem there is the majority of the fence was damaged with trees falling on about everything. We've spent a lot of time getting that removed what we could. Most of that's the front area of the park. We've still got a few more trees that have to come down that were not in great shape to begin with, and are just hazardous. It could be could be dangerous if they start falling. So once we get those down, a little bit of work around where we pulled the fence up and had equipment in there, and we think in the coming weeks, Drexel Heritage Park will be able to open it. I spoke previously about the maintenance shed at Catawba Meadows. That building to the right was an area that housed some of our equipment and supplies, and as you can see, it is no more. Most of all that's been removed now, and just some other images of Catawba Meadows on the right, and then some other pictures of the way it looked. That's the area, if I'm not mistaken. No, that's not it. That's on the baseball side, but it's just amazing the amount of water that was in the park. Here's the boardwalk at River Village. Again, we discussed that until we can get this repaired, the full greenway will not be able to be reopened. This is a section that was lifted up and shifted. There are also sections that collapsed down, and in areas where the boardwalk has pulled away from the building. It's attached to the building, and it's several inches of space between the building and the boardwalk now. And that's what we're working to get removed and eventually build back in its spot. Here's some before picture of Catawba Meadows Park. Nice and green and beautiful. And now it's, as you can see, it's top left, that's the softball side. A lot of that is just, you can kind of see the path if you look at it where it comes across both fields and kind of pushes towards baseball side and out towards the greenway. There's the soccer fields, and the soccer fields now.
There's
pretty bad.
mounds of silt and sand on the soccer fields, foot and a half high in some areas.
It's the amazing amount of silt, sand that's on them. And still, you will see it on the walking paths that it's still gonna be a little sandy, or dusty at times. We've tried to we've blown it off. We've pushed some more. It's just gonna take time to get it where you don't see it like you do now. And just a couple other things. I wanted to touch on the Shuey Park is coming along. We've hopefully start our youth baseball, softball next week. We're about 365 kids this year between t-ball, baseball, softball. And normally when you have 9 to 10 ball fields to play them on, now we're down to Shuey and Gene Turner.
Wow.
That is going to require some patience, not just from us, but parents with children, people in the community that may be coming through Shuey Park when we're getting out, because it's going to be a lot of people in one spot. But the plan is to house the softball at Gene Turner and the baseball at Shuey. And right now they're looking great. We're still not complete, but the fields look very good. Andrew, the maintenance guys, have done a wonderful job getting those ready. And with this, we've had conversations with the school system. They've been willing to help us where they can. Part of the problem we run into is we play later in the evenings, and a lot of fields may not have lights. But we have some options to play at their fields if need be. Freedom High School, their field was hit, and they will be using the Legion baseball field tomorrow and Thursday. So they've been a great partner to help us out. They sent us some chalk today and some painters that we lost in the storm, and we help them. They help us. It's been a good partnership, and you know that's one of the biggest things is being able. At first, we didn't think we'd be able to offer baseball, softball this season, and the way things are going, it would have been interesting if we could do it next year at Catawba Meadows. But we've made it work with Shuey Park, and we hope for a good season this year. It will not be a one night opening night. Everybody's there, probably spread out over multiple nights. So you may need to. I don't know, Mayor, if you're going to throw the first pitch every night, you might need to start stretching.
I'll start working out.
Okay. Or be ready if you need someone else to call in relief, some of you other gentlemen. But yes, we get a lot of questions, a lot of calls. Some understand, some are not as understanding, but we are working to get everything back to where it was. Some people don't understand because they can't get into parks, how bad it is in some places. And for us, you know, we limited staff. We've contracted what we could. A lot of equipment we do not have, but we're getting there. And opening the section of the Greenway tonight is a start, and we hopefully are able to add other areas and amenities in the near future.
That's a real plus.
Any
Real
questions
plus.
for Brian?
Excited to hear that, Brian.
Yes.
Thank you. A lot of folks would be very happy tomorrow.
Yeah.
Staff is doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much.
They're awesome. Thank you.
Next on our agenda is a recognition of the Morganton Human Relations Commission celebrating the Irish History Month and Women's History Month. I'm going to call on HR Director Russ Shear to read on behalf of the HRC.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here as a representative of the Morganton Human Relations Commission. And HRC probably wanted to recognize March as Irish History Month, celebrating the rich heritage, cultural, and contributions of the Irish community. This month provides an opportunity to reflect on Irish immigrants and their descendants' profound impact on society, from shaping industry and politics to influencing art, music, and literature. Irish History Month also honors the resilience and perseverance of the Irish people, acknowledging their struggles and triumphs throughout history. From the Great Irish Famine to their role in building communities across the United States, the Irish have demonstrated unwavering strength and determination. The Commission encourages residents to explore and appreciate Irish culture through local events, educational programs, and storytelling that highlights the depths of Ireland's legacy. By recognizing Irish History Month, Morganton pays tribute to the enduring spirit of the Irish people who continue to enrich and inspire communities worldwide. March is also recognized as Women's History Month, and a time to recognize the vital contributions that women have made throughout history. Women's History Month began as a national celebration in 1981 when Congress passed a resolution to establish the week of March 8th as Women's History Week. In 1987, after being petitioned by the National Women's History Project, Congress expanded the celebration for the entire month. This year's theme, Moving Forward Together, celebrates the collective strength and influence of women who have dedicated their lives to education, mentorship, and leadership. Through their efforts, they have served as an inspiration for all generations, both past and present. The 2025 theme spotlights the contributions women have made in the American education system, the free marketplace of ideas, and the very fabric of our democracy. We invite everyone to join us in honoring the achievements and ongoing contributions of women around the world. Thank you.
Russ, thanks for all you do and the work of the HRC. Next on our agenda is a proclamation. I'll ask Councilman Chris Hawkins if he'll present that proclamation to Jenna Cole with the Chamber of Commerce. Chris, will you and Jenna approach the microphone as I read the proclamation? Declaring April 2nd through the 9th, 2025 as Burke County Chamber of Commerce 2025 Litter Sweep Week. Whereas the Burke County Chamber of Commerce has proclaimed April 2nd through the 9th, 2025 as the 2025 Litter Sweep Week in the city of Morganton, North Carolina, and the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors and staff encourages citizens from across the city to take an active role in making their community cleaner. And whereas the Burke County Chamber of Commerce will be supported by the North Carolina Department of Transportation to organize the 2025 Litter Sweep Week countywide roadside cleanup to ensure clean and beautiful roads in the city of Morganton. And whereas the 2025 cleanup will be the fourth for the Burke County Chamber of Commerce, and it's more than 600 members. And whereas the 2025 Litter Sweep Week cleanup will be part of educating the children of this great city regarding the importance of a clean environment to the quality of life in Morganton, North Carolina. Now, therefore, we, the City Council for the City of Morganton, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim April 2nd through the 9th, 2025, as the Burke County Chamber of Commerce 2025 Litter Sweep Week. We urge all our citizens to participate in this event to maintain the great beauty of our city. The cleanup will increase awareness of the need for cleaner roadsides, emphasize the importance of not littering, and encourage recycling of solid waste. Approved this third day of March 2025. Ronnie Thompson, Mayor. Renee Carswell, City Clerk. We don't need a resolution, but Chris, if you'll make that presentation, and Jenna, if you'd like to add any comments, you're welcome to speak.
Be glad to, Mayor. Jenna, thank you so much to the Chamber of Commerce for organizing the 2025 Litter Sweep Week. It takes all of us. We take great pride in our city in making sure that it looks nice and beautiful. And in my opinion, Litter Sweep Week ought to be every week of the year. Do what you can, where you can, when you can. But thank you so much for organizing this, and it's an honor for me to present this to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jenna, would you like to say something?
I would just like to say thank you to everybody that supported and participated. It's free to sign up your teams, so get your youth groups, your neighbors, your families, anybody, and sign up for a free team, and help us take it on, take care of our environment and our community.
Thank you, Jenna. Thank you so much. Upcoming events are downtown and City Hall. We have art in City Hall, March the 2025 this month. Natalia Lee is painting. The method and canvas used is oil on black canvas. Natalia works from her studio in Kannapolis, North Carolina. The pop-up Winter Farmers Market is Saturday, March the 8th from 9 to 1 at 111 North Green Street. At Common Performing Arts, Come From Away is on March the 10th, 2025. The Red Hot Chili Pipers is March 17th, 2025 at 7:30. And the Dallas String Quartet String, that'll be called Strings Unreleased, will be Friday, April the 4th at 7:30. Sally, do we have anything from the North Carolina Power Agency?
Other than it is budget season and the rate committee is meeting, that's it.
Can we get our rates lowered?
I don't know, we'll see.
Okay, good luck. Consent agenda, I believe we have 7 items. Sally, if you'll take those.
Absolutely, would ask that the council consider those in a single motion unless you want something discussed separately. For those viewing at home, that is minutes from the February 3rd meeting, setting advertising date of April the 5th, 2025 for unpaid real estate taxes, approving the 2026 urban archery season. That'll be January 10th, 26th to February 15th. I think that's January 10th, 25 to February. Is that, no, that's both, never mind, 26. And then the approval of a pole attachment agreement with Crown Castle Fiber LLC. And that is so that if they decide to build out in the city, they can attach to the poles that the city owns. And that is something that the state of North Carolina, you cannot deny any of that. There just has to be enough space for them to attach to our poles. Then approve a budget amendment to accept grant funds for Parks and Rec, $17,204.36, and that is to purchase youth sports equipment. And a resolution appointing Shelley Stevens as the plat review officer for the city of Morganton, and removing Mark Hall, who is currently on that list. and that is a recommendation to Burke County, and then Burke County approves that. And then approval of a budget amendment to receive funds from the private portion of the Downtown Alley project, and that is $38,000.
Do any members of council wish to have any items removed? If not, to have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next on our agenda is a public hearing, our first public hearing for the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG Consolidated Plan for fiscal year 2025-2029. Open it up.
Yes, and I think Jennifer's gonna.
Okay. We are now, the public hearing is open for this. Jennifer Cannon will give us some information. Jennifer, thank you for being here.
Hey, good evening. So this is the first of two public hearings we're going to have for the city to receive HUD CDBG Community Development Block Grant Funds. The city of Morganton is an entitlement city, meaning they get funded by HUD every year. We are required to do an action plan each and every year, and every 5 years we have to do a consolidated plan, which we're talking about today. The consolidated plan identifies the needs and looks down the road of what to do in the next 5 years, which will be through 2029. In this consolidated plan, the first year action plan is also included in this plan. In the past, we've done a few of the activities or grants to nonprofits, small business loans, some infrastructure, and clearance and acquisition. Last year, we got about $200,000, just over $200,000. I don't know what we'll get this year, especially with everything going on. No clue. But we're here to see if anybody has any comments.
Okay, it is a public hearing. Does anyone wish to speak for or against this CDBG grant? Seeing no one approach the microphone, public hearing is now closed. Jennifer, thank you so much.
And we'll have another one later in the process, and then details once we know dollars.
Jennifer, thank you. Next is a public hearing and consideration of a rezoning request submitted by T.L. Norman Land Company to rezone 20.64 acres located at 0 Ula Street. The public hearing is now open. I'll call Wendy Smith if she could give us some information. Wendy, thank you.
Yes, sir. As the mayor said, it is a 20-acre parcel. Chad, if you could bring up map 1, please. Actually, map 4, sorry. So this is the location of the parcel. It's off of Kirksey Drive. There's actually a small access. There's 2 small lines there that you can see. And if you can go back to map 1, Chad. So the parcel is currently zoned LID, which is similar to the property to the northwest of it, and with a mobile home overlay. The mobile home overlay is all of the stripey bit for technical terminology there. They are proposing to rezone it to MID, which is the land to the southeast of them, already is, and to remove that mobile home overlay option. They will keep the 2 other overlays that they have that are airport safety, heliport, and the watershed protection, which are under other ordinances and other documentation. The site has access to water, sewer, and electric services for the city. There are also special access provisions that, again, Chad, if you could go to map 4 again, and I'm going to read to you because they're unique. So in terms of access, I mentioned, and if you can just see slightly to the north of where the Blue Creek crosses Kirksey Drive, that's where the access to this parcel is. It's actually already city road reserve, 40 feet wide. I note that the T.L. Norman Land Company also owns the land to the southeast and connecting over to East Union Street. What they do not own and do not have control over is Curtis, Dogwood, Brooksy, and Smoke Rise Drive. So if you can see, all of those streets connect to this property, but there is actually restrictions in the deeds for this property. That, first of all, there must be a 30-foot buffer between the subject parcel boundary and that one parcel at the end of Dogwood Drive that borders the property and the boundary of Smoke Rise Drive. So any development on that property has to be set off 30 feet from that. There is also a restriction on restricting access from those 4 streets that I mentioned into this property for the lifetime of the last to die of the present owner, residents of homes on Dogwood Drive plus 21 years.
Wow.
That was in the previous deed. It continued into this deed in 2015. I'm quite sure who has a list of all the residents there in 2015, because it is the residents, not the owners. But basically, that means that'd be almost impossible to do. That's the summary. Tracking all those people down and then waiting 21 years. So as we discussed in the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, anybody that lives there today and was there at the hearing, not in your lifetime, plus 21 years of that period. So a bit unique in that aspect. What that means, though, is they need to come off of that Kirksey Drive, or if it was developed as a whole from the current owners, maybe out to East Union Street, both of which are NCDOT roads, so they will be subject to their rules and regulations for developing those. There are a range of uses that usually could be utilized if they go from LID, which is primarily just a residential zone, into MID. Those are limited in scope for commercial and other type uses. The exact definition of medium intensity, variety of medium to high density residential and low to medium intensity civic, institutional, office, service, and retail uses designed to keep the impact on adjacent residential areas at a minimum. Also within the zoning ordinance, there are a lot of restrictions that if you're developing some of these retail or recreation or other type uses, you actually need to come off of an arterial street, which will be 60 to 100 feet wide. Given the location of that property, that you only have a 40-foot access onto Kirksey, while I can't say that Elon Musk wouldn't come put a drive-in theater there, it's probably going to be unlikely of that. It is a very, very steep property. There is also a creek down at the bottom of that hill, which they must stay 100 feet off of under the watershed ordinance as a blue line stream that we talked about there. Chad, if you'll go to map 2, you can see that this fulfills the proposal fulfills the new comprehensive plan jurisdiction that we just adopted back in September, and caused this mixed density residential neighborhood, which is the densest of the residential neighborhood uses. So there's a variety of residential uses that are probably most likely with some limited residential scale office and commercial uses. So you're thinking at that point more like a dentist office and a house rather than a Chick-fil-A. Yeah? On those pieces. As I said, it's preserving the overlays. It is removing that mobile home option, which, so I understood from the hearing that the surrounding neighborhood was more, even though it is over their own lots, more accepting of for potentially the quality of type housing that might be developed there. Yeah, that's the summary. Any questions for me?
This is a public hearing. Ask if anyone would like to speak for or against this proposal. If you'll approach the microphone, give us your name and your address.
Hey, Council. My name is Alan Curtis. I live at 315 Inglewood Drive, Morganton. I am here representing Tim Norman, the owner of the land that is requesting to be rezoned. He is currently out of the country and just wished me to stand before you and just say this is part of what our city and our county needs is this rezoning to be able to have more housing. And by increasing this density or or changing this zoning, it increases the possibility of the density from LID to MID, not the base district, but what it allows a developer to use the performance standards and to increase that density. I'm glad she's here. As we all know, development is very, very costly. So the more units, the more possibilities they have, makes the development more feasible. I will say that we do have the property under contract. The developer that is currently working with Wendy very regularly, they are excited to potentially bring 250 or so either townhomes / single-family homes. You know, not sure how that'll work out, but that's their goal, is to bring 250 possibilities on this parcel and the other parcels, but to be nice single families and nice townhomes.
Alan, thank you. Would anyone else like to speak for or against this proposal? Okay. Public hearing is now closed. I need a motion from council.
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning of 0 Eula Street, property identification number 27048284494 from low intensity district, and the mobile home, airport, heliport safety, and watershed protection overlays to medium intensity district, and the AHS and WP overlays, which is consistent with the adopted Imagine 2040 comprehensive plan, and is considered suitable as the development of the site with general mixed residential and limited neighborhood scale non-residential uses, fulfills the expectation of the Imagine 2040 comprehensive land use plan for the site. The additional density available in MID, should the site be developed with housing, would fulfill a significant community need. Preserving the AHS and WP overlays will ensure suitable development does not obstruct the airspace for Foothills Regional Airport and is environmentally friendly to the water system. Utility or traffic impacts from future development will be managed at the time of any future development.
Thank you, Chris. I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Wendy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, next on our agenda is an approval
I'm gonna have to stand up.
of a state cash flow loan arrangement and promissory note. Sally?
So I said earlier tonight that we were gonna talk later about several things related to our Helene recovery, and this is one of those. So the State Treasurer's Office, with money appropriated by the General Assembly, $100 million to be exact, have started a new program, and it is very new, very young, and that is a cash flow loan program for units that were impacted by Helene. And the first tranche of this, let me say this, so they are working very hard to get the money out quickly.
Yes.
And so there are a lot of things about this program that haven't been well defined. And I know that Councilman Cato was in Asheville with us when the folks that are trying to do this were speaking about the program. The requirement was to turn in your FEMA worksheets and everything that you have by February 14th, and we did that. There were $670 million worth of projects turned in on those worksheets on February 14th by units in the West who are almost at the same point in the process as we are. I can assure you that there is much more need than that. So what they did is they took 75 million of the 100 million, and they did a calculation, and based on our FEMA worksheet, the 46 million that we talked about earlier, they have approved us for a 0% loan up to $5,460,967.40. That's the calculation. What we need to do in order to accept this is to approve some loan documents. There's a couple things in those documents that we need to know. So it is a 5-year payback. So once you take it, there's a progressive payback. $1 the first year, 10% the second year, 20% the third, 30% the fourth, and then you pay off the loan in year 5. It is meant to help you get to where you are starting to get some of these projects, the projects that we talked about tonight, and get some reimbursement for FEMA. It requires that once you receive a FEMA reimbursement, you have 5 days to pay the state back. Pretty quick turnaround. So what they didn't take into account in the haste of trying to put this together, and what we discovered, and Jesse and I had a conference call with the League of Municipalities and the fellow at the State Treasurer's Office, Jeff Poley, who's put this together. What that did not anticipate is the difference in the FEMA process between Category A and B, which for us is just under 5 million, and that's the debris removal and the emergency response. So in the FEMA process, those things supposedly get submitted and paid earlier. It's money we've already spent. Cash flowing the projects, the engineering studies, the engineering work, having the cash to do all of that is where the units need help. Because that's the money that you gotta come up with that you're looking at years for FEMA to reimburse you for. So they hadn't taken that into account. And so when we started reading the documents, we're like, so if you give me this 5.4 million and I get my emergency money that I've already spent, then I have to pay you back in 5 days. You really haven't helped my cash flow for the other 42 million, which is what we're struggling with. So they recognize that point. They are going back and talking about that. So what we have been advised to do is to ask you to approve us for a loan up to this amount. We will not close on that loan yet. We will wait, by agreement with the State Treasurer's Office, to wait until we solve the dilemma that we're talking about. That may be that we wait a little longer for the closing of the loan and get it further down the road, or that, and we continue to use more of our fund balance to do this. It may mean that they adjust that and take out Category A and B altogether and give it to another unit, which is what I hope they do. I suggested that, but I don't know. So I'm asking you tonight to make a motion, and instead of saying in the amount of, I would ask you to say in the amount up to $5,460,967.40.
Thank you, Sally. What's the wish of council?
I'll make a motion to approve a state cash flow loan agreement and promissory note for disaster response activities to local governments in the amount up to $5,460,967.40 at 0%, and to approve a resolution approving the City of Morganton's assumption of the loan obligation.
Thank you, Butch. I have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? Sally, it is 0%, correct?
It is 0%, but that very quick payback.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And before we move on, let me say to you that we were the third largest loan that they approved in this. And in our call with them on Friday, in all the challenging news that we talked about tonight, Jeff Poley, who is a former bond attorney who has been hired by the new state treasurer to run this program and create it, asked me to please tell you all that we are further ahead than most places they're dealing with in identifying and getting our FEMA damage assessment to this point, and that us noticing this brings it to the attention to help them with what other units are going to struggle with that they don't know they're going to struggle with yet.
It pays to have good staff and observant staff. So
Absolutely.
thank you, Sally. Council, we do need to go back to the public hearing, Community Development Block Grant. In my efforts to get us over to rezoning some property, we did not make a motion to proceed. So I need a motion to proceed with development of the Consolidated Action Plan for fiscal year 25-26.
So moved.
Thank you, Wendy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
All in favor say aye. Motion passes. Thank you so much. Next is consideration for the demolition of the boardwalk at River Village. Sally?
Yes, so you've seen the pictures and we've talked about it. City staff put together a request for proposals for the demolition. It is something that our crews cannot handle and we need a contractor for. On February the 11th, we received 4 bids, And after reviewing those, staff is recommending an award to D.H. Griffin out of Hickory as the most responsible bidder, and that is at a cost of $123,140.50. And because we believe that how it attaches to the building and with some of the stuff underneath, there could be some contingency we run into, staff is asking for a 10% contingency, $12,314, that we would manage any change orders. And so asking you to approve a contract not to exceed $135,454.50.
What's the wish of council?
Motion to approve a contract with D.H. Griffin Wrecking Company Incorporated for the demolition and removal of the boardwalk at River Village at a total cost not to exceed $135,454.50, which includes contingency, and to authorize the mayor and/or the city manager to execute the contract and any other necessary documents.
Thank you, Wendy. I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes.
And we expect that work to begin hopefully late this month.
Okay. Next on our agenda is consideration to have an annexation petition submitted by Madcap Adventures LLC for 3 adjoining parcels of land. I'll call on Wendy Smith to give us some details. Wendy?
Great. Chad, can you bring up the annexation map, please? So this is a proposal to annex 3 parcels. I have the aerial on, but you can kind of see one parcel up the front. Sorry, this is the corner of Enola Road and Pete Britton Road. There is one parcel up to the front. There is a tiny, tiny parcel along Pete Britton Road with a house on it. If you can just see that down at the bottom. And then there is this larger remainder parcel that connects both to Enola Road and Pete Britton Road. They're all 3 owned by the same people. You see the dotted blue line running through the property. That's our ETJ line. So the parcel is split by zoning in the county, zoning in the city. We looked at another one similar to that last year. The applicants wish to bring all of the parcels into the city limits, which are just across the street at Liberty Middle School there, to enable them to provide a cohesive development, potential future subdivision arrangement that isn't splitting these different zones, have a consistent system under which to develop the property. So we are calling for a public hearing next month
Okay.
on that.
What's the wish of council?
Make a motion to accept the clerk's certification of the sufficiency of the annexation petition received from Madcap Adventures LLC.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Do I have a motion to have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Butch. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I need a second motion, please.
I make a motion to adopt a resolution calling for a public hearing on April 7th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the City Hall Council Chamber to consider this annexation petition and directing city staff to publish an appropriate notice of public hearing as required by law.
Thank you, Butch. I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Wendy. Next is the consideration of a resolution adopting the updated 2024 Uniform Regional Hazardous Mitigation Plan. Sally?
This is the plan that we do as the Unifor region, so all 4 counties and the municipalities in and amongst those counties. And it is to comply with the Stafford Act, which is the federal act that deals with emergencies and hazards and hurricanes and all kinds of stuff like that. It is something that is done as a region and updated. We are required to update it periodically, so it's a pretty standard update. You have also included in that, and city staff, development design, and folks have done the part that of our specific, Morganton specific changes are also in here.
What's the wish of council?
Make a motion to approve a resolution adopting the updated 2024 Unifor Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Thank you, Chris. I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Wendy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is consideration of approval of Morganton Main Street Small Business Loan Agreement with the Restaurant on Queen LLC doing business as The Hedge. Sally?
So more exciting news. So, since 2019, you have been budgeting dollars to try to recruit restaurants to the city, and in particular, restaurants into downtown. And this is one of those. We do have budgeted dollars in the budget this year for this. The amount of the loan is $30,000, and it is being requested by Royce Chestnut and Erica Damon, and they would be the owners. And the lease that they have is from Ridwell Property, and they're looking to have a small menu, a full bar, some outdoor seating in their plan for how they're going to develop their space. And city staff is recommending approval of the $30,000 loan.
What's the wish of council?
Make a motion to approve a Morganton Main Street Small Business Loan Agreement in the amount of $30,000 to Restaurant on Queen LLC to assist with the cost of upfitting the restaurant at 203 Queen Street, and to authorize the mayor and or city manager to execute such contract and any other necessary documents.
Thank you, Chris. I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Wendy. Any discussion?
The Hedge.
The Hedge.
The Hedge.
Quite a business plan they presented, though. I mean, it's very well studied.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. I think the next thing on our agenda is consideration of the purchase of 2 lawnmowers for Parks and Recreation. Sally?
We are asking to purchase 2 lawnmowers to replace some of the ones that we lost in the storm. These 2 would be purchased through state contract, and the total amount is $70,705.56. And we are spending more money tonight than we are accepting. So,
What's the wish of council?
In that case, I will enter the motion to approve the purchase of 2 John Deere 1570 terrain cut front mowers at a cost of $70,705.56 through a state contract to provide maintenance for Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Butch. I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion?
About time for grass to start growing,
It
so
is.
let's.
We need the mowers.
I will tell you that the total estimate right now for our equipment and for the upfitting of the concession stands and the buildings and the stuff that we lost is just over 1.1 million. So we are, again, as I said tonight, not settled with insurance, not settled with FEMA or any of that. So we're spending our money and then hoping to find some sources as we go.
I had a motion and I think a second. Any further discussion?
Sorry.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is consideration for a contract for making repairs to equipment damaged at the wastewater treatment influence station. Sally?
So you saw some pictures tonight of damage at the wastewater treatment plant. And since the storm, we have been working with bypass pumping and many other temporary solutions there. We have done some repairs to the pumping system. Last month, you approved the divers who will be going in sometime later this week if we approve this contract too, and doing part of this work. We hope, depending on what we find once they're in, that this may be the end of the work at the influence station. I think there'll be just a little bit more happening down there. But this is for $415,817,000. And hopefully this will complete our permanent work at the wastewater treatment plant.
What's the wish of council?
Motion to approve and authorize a contract with Charles R. Underwood Incorporated to perform work in response to Tropical Storm Helene damage to the influent pump station at the wastewater treatment plant in the amount of $415,817, and to authorize the mayor and/or city manager to execute the contract and any other necessary documents.
Thank you, Wendy. I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We have one further
This
thing.
facility is covered by insurance, and so we're working with insurance. We hope that this will be reimbursed by insurance.
We have another item of consideration of an amendment to an ordinance that was passed out. Sally, will you cover that, please?
We do. So, as you know, there have been a couple of accidents on what we call the bypass, West Fleming, at the entrance, one of the entrances to the School of Science and Math over by Aldi's. And that is a Department of Transportation controlled road. And we have received an ordinance from them, from North Carolina DOT this week, actually like late Friday night, to consider lowering the speed limit from 45 to 35 on the stretch of road from South Sterling to Burkmont, and again on Fleming Drive. Because that is located in our city limits, DOT always asks that we concur with that. And if we concur with that, in order for our law enforcement officers to be able to enforce that speed, we have to update our ordinance, which is what you have before you tonight.
What's the wish of council?
Make a motion to concur with the NCDOT to repeal the existing 45-mile-per-hour speed limit, approve an amendment to ordinance repealing and removing subsection 3 of section 119 of appendix 1 to section 7-1052A5 of the Code of Ordinances, and to authorize the city clerk to prepare and sign the certification of municipal declaration to repeal speed limit and request concurrence form provided by NCDOT.
Thank you, Chris. I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Wendy. Any discussion?
I think the recent accidents involving those students makes this very positive, but I am curious about public safety's stance. Do you think this is a step in the right direction to make that safer for the students? Certainly seems like it
Yeah,
would, but
it would be. Any other discussion?
Not going to fight the state.
All in favor say aye.
aye,
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay,
I'll be there.
I'd like to,
Have the hardest time remembering that.
I have a final motion to make, and I move that council go into closed session, to discuss matters relating to economic development as allowed by General Statute Section 143-318-11, Paragraph A, Section 4, and that city council will go to the meeting as council. Okay. That motion, we need that to go into closed session. To have a motion. I make the motion to have a second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, council is now in closed session. The
And we don't expect any action after closed session.
council will be moving to conference room 4 for the closed session and return to council chamber following the conclusion of the closed session. Council will not take any formal action in closed session.